On this episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show, we have another baseball-related episode. We're going to talk about pitch counts and inning limits. We're going to talk about
managing the pitcher between
innings, what we can do to keep the arm fresh between innings, and how we use the Motus Sleeve to monitor stress on the elbow in our athletes. The Ask Mike Reinold Show. Helping people feel better, move better, and perform better. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show. We're here with another baseball-related episode. So I know this is Tilly hates this one.
No gymnastics episodes.
There's so much overlap between baseball
and episodes.
Hypermobile athletes, but we have another great baseball one. We're getting a ton of baseball questions, so I mean that's why we keep doing these episodes. So we're here again, Champion P Team Performance in Boston. Len McCrina, Dan Pope, Dave Tilly. We gotta go. Right, perfect. So, all right,
guys, thanks for watching Mike Reinold.
Baseball questions. What do we got? Joe.
Matthew from Silicon Valley. Seems like there's been an increasing number of Tommy John injuries with high school players in our area. For high school pitchers, is it about pitch count or innings pitched, or both?
Right.
MLB scouts tend to give us recommendations based on number of innings pitched annually. Majority of high school coaches disagree and say it's all about the number of pitches per outing. What's the answer?
What's his name, Matthew?
Yes.
Because that's actually a well-articulated, I guess he's Silicon Valley, a well-articulated question too, because you're dead on right there. MLB scouts, MLB pays attention to innings, and the youth pays attention to pitch counts because that's where the safety guidelines come up. None of them are perfect, right? I think pitch counts are so popular in youth baseball because they're easy. It's easy for the coach to track in a youth baseball. It's easy for a parent to get it. Wow, there are so many more advanced things you could do. There's talking about stressful pitches, like what's the difference between a pitch with nobody on and a 0-2 count versus bases loaded and a 3-2 count. Like, is that count as the same quantity of force, that type of thing? So there's super complicated ways to do it, but I think pitch counts became popular because we developed guidelines. So ASMI, USA Baseball, Little League Baseball, they developed guidelines based on their research because it was easy to do. At the big league level, they do, or in the professional level, they do go by innings. I'll let Lenny jump in, but I think there's an answer to both scientifically. But what do you think, Len?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot going on in that one. I mean, you can even consider what's the most stressful pitch a pitcher is going to probably throw? It's probably a fastball, right?
That's a good point. Percentage pitch, yeah, right. It's so complicated.
That somebody throws versus a breaking ball, off-speed pitch, or a slide, or something like that. That puts the most stress, the most torque on the elbow and shoulder, specifically the elbow, if that's what we're talking Tommy John's. And then you got Tim Gabbert's acute to chronic ratio and trying to plot all that stuff and what's their chronic workload versus their acute workload and trying to plot that.
Right, so not just the quantity of pitches, but when they happen in relationship to another.
He just released another study like a month ago. Was talking about how they're changing it now to weight the amount of work done in like a halftime life that erodes over the week.
Right.
So if you pitch like a super heavy load on Monday and then the same heavy load on Monday, that's different than the Monday to Thursday.
Nice. I missed that article. Don't be afraid to share it, Dave. Jeepers. That's what Slack's for. Silicon Valley. We use Slack here at Champion. Slack me that, man.
I will.
Yeah, you know what? There's some science. And I think the answer is that they're all valid.
Yeah.
Right. So we know statistically some things, right? We know that. What are the numbers here? If you throw more than 8 months out of the year, you're 5 times more likely to get injured. So 8 months. So it's a duration over the year. If you throw more than 8 months, if you throw more than 80 pitches on average a game, you're 4 times more likely to get hurt, right? And if you throw more than 100 innings in a calendar year, you're 3 times more likely to get hurt. So
if you do all those,
I think they all matter.
And fatigue, that Olsen study in the AJSM shows
that's what that's from.
36 times increased risk. So yeah, I mean it's just
right. So the answer is all of them. Pitch counts is popular because of simplicity, but yes, it's a complicated question. But awesome, T-Bone.
All right, Josh from Chicago. What are your general recommendations for managing pitching arms between innings to minimize fatigue throughout an outing?
So, all right, so between innings. So there's been some research on this. So there's some interesting research out of Sanford No, Stanford, not Sanford. I used to live in Birmingham. I used to live in Birmingham. I didn't know there were academics. That's a well-respected program. Come on,
Stanford.
Coach Casey, right?
Coach Casey.
But that's at Stanford, excuse me. That actually they tried to do some cooling between innings. So what they showed was potentially that your attrition of performance over the course of a game, maybe from overheating. So and even just core temperature. So they'd put on these like ice jackets and stuff like that. And practicality-wise, I don't know, but they actually showed some interesting things. But our friends Rafael Escamilla and Kyle Yoshimiro and I don't know who else, and Dr. Andrews, I believe, was on that paper. But those guys, they actually produced some. We've been doing this for like 10 years, and they finally just published this. I think it was in AJSM 2016, maybe. But they call it the 2-out drill. And essentially, what it is, it's a bunch of drills that that you do. Like it's just like active mobility, some stretching your forearm and type things. You do that between innings. You do it when there's 2 outs, so the pitcher stands up, while they're, that last out's kind of in play, and they do these things, and they actually showed that you maintained your range of motion over the course of the game. I tried that with the Red Sox, and we were super successful with it. It's one of those things you got to start early and do that. So I think I'm just, what, I'll make this a post on EliteBaseballPerformance.com. I'll do a 2-out drill post.
That's definitely an interesting question, and I'd love to see what the research is screaming at right now.
I don't know how practical the ice thing is. The ice thing makes sense.
Yeah.
It's practical. Other people are trying like eStim, and again showing some interesting results, but it's a practicality thing, right?
Yeah.
Especially at the big professional level. It's a super huge practicality level, but I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's knock it out. Let's get number Trace. I don't know why I just did that.
Hey guys, love the podcast. Wondering what your thoughts are on the use of Motus Sleeve in a clinical setting. Are you using it with some of your throwers, and how do you see it fitting into the acute-chronic training load equation?
All right, that ties in well. We were just talking about the acute-chronic workload equation. So Motus has a sleeve with a gyroscopic accelerometer that goes into the sleeve, kind of over your Tommy John, your UCL ligament, and it measures the stress on your ligament and your arm speed and a bunch of other things in there. But what they do is if you chronically wear that while you're throwing and you're doing your throwing program, your bullpens or whatever, it actually tracks your stress. So now you can quantify how aggressive that pitch was and how stressful that was, which kind of goes to what we were saying, earlier with that. Now this Motus Sleeve will tell you that this is a more aggressive pitch and actually change the cumulative stress with that acute chronic workload ratio. Yeah. So the answer is yes. I mean, we are playing with it at Champion, and we are starting to do it. There's lots of ways you can use that. We do it sometimes to determine the specific stress on an arm, during a throwing program. Maybe just calculate how far they should throw in a long toss program. We're doing it for research. We're looking at mechanical changes. You might want to do this, where you're using the Motus Sleeve to determine does this increase or decrease your stress, that type of thing.
Weighted ball programs.
Yeah, training, right? Yeah. Maybe if you're trying to individualize, you're trying to figure out the specific weight of a ball you might want to use. What else, Len? What else am I missing?
Yeah, I think if a pitcher is working on mechanics and stuff like that, I think we might use it a lot this offseason with a couple of major league guys to tweak their mechanics, and it showed that their stress was a little less in an arm slot that most people think is more stressful. So I think it's interesting to see that objective data actually shine through versus our perceived thought of, if you lower your arm angle, it's going to have more stress on the elbow. Not necessarily true.
Right. That's a good point.
And I think it also correlates. It's very reliable to the fancy systems that are out there that are tracking. You got to put the little reflector balls on all your joints and everything and track that. It's very reliable with those systems too. So it's something that can be used in a regular setting and not necessarily have to go to a laboratory.
Right. I like it. Yeah. If you're not assessing, you're guessing.
Yes, Dan.
I'm going to throw something out there. I can't throw a ball more than 75 feet, just so people know that. But
Is that true?
I can, but it just won't be accurate at all.
We need to document that, but continue.
We're going to work on that.
I think one of the things that might be helpful is getting people to start to think about individual differences between people and maybe what certain bodies can handle, right? Because that's one of the things you talk about a lot, is that some people can handle more of one type of lift, more reps, different type of frequency. Maybe some people's arms and shoulders can handle more of a certain type of throw, and then some can't. And then it gives feedback on the way they can throw for longevity over time.
It's a better way to individualize. There's so many, there's so many, preconceived concepts that are probably wrong, right? That are just old school kind of thought process. Any technology we can use to quantify is going to be better. Right? Yeah. So, awesome. Thanks, guys. Another awesome baseball episode. We appreciate it. Head over to EliteBaseballPerformance.com if you haven't checked it out. it's kind of our new website that we're doing with our baseball stuff, because we want to keep providing more value. So head there. But thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Go to MikeReinold.com, click on the podcast link, and ask us some questions. We got a big button right there. You can click and fill out a form and ask us questions. And it's awesome. We'd love to hear whatever you guys got. So we appreciate it. We'll see you guys on the next episode.